Hello, welcome to Locked on Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. And on today's episode, we are already starting to look forward as we kick off our Get to Know the Enemy series, where we look at every team in the Pacific, how their offseason looked, and then kind of a nice preview of what this team's going to be in the 2022-2023 season. And we start with the Calgary Flames. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked on Sharks.
You're Locked on Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fan and San Jose Hockey Now. And of course, I want to thank you guys for making us your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts, and of course, subscribe on YouTube. And today we start off looking ahead to the 2022-2023 season, even though it's beginning of August. And I start with Jess, the Locked on Flames host. Jess, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
It is August, and we're already looking ahead to next season, so you know how that is.
Oh, yes, I do.
So I wanted to start with the Flames because I think out of the entire Pacific, the Flames have probably had the most chaotic offseason. So just a quick reminder, the Flames last year, 111 points, won the Pacific Division, lost in the second round to the Edmonton Oilers, and then proceeded to have the whole thing fall apart on them with, of course, Johnny Gaudreau now in Columbus, Matthew Tkachuk being traded to the Panthers. So, yeah, pretty quiet offseason for you guys, huh?
Yeah, really scraping the bottom of the barrel for content for the last 2 months now.
Yes. Let's go ahead and start with, I guess, where do you want to start? Do you want to start Gaudreau or do you want to start Tkachuk? Because, I mean, those are both equally just massive moves for the Flames.
Gaudreau.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start with him.
So, Gaudreau, how it felt like he might until like the day before, and then it was like, oh, no, he's not coming back type of thing. We know, he kind of struggled under center for a little bit, where it really kind of came along, especially last season. Where do the Flames try to kind of make up for that offense that he's leaving?
I guess we could have started with Tkachuk, because the key piece to making up for Gaudreau's absence is now Jonathan Huberdeau. And Gaudreau and Huberdeau had 115 points each last season, and obviously
that's a fair swap, right?
Yeah,
I
don't know. I don't know how Brad Treliving did it and what he was concocting and whatever in his office or wherever he is. But with Gaudreau being gone, you really do have to look at the two-way player he was, transitioning into, and obviously that dominant offensive player and his ability to find the back of the net and his playmaking abilities.
Yeah, so I mean that's a huge lift. I mean, there was, going back, I think maybe 2 seasons ago, there was like, hey, maybe Johnny Gaudreau's not happy in there. Maybe the Sharks, like a Timo Meier, there was a lot of like Timo Meier for Johnny Gaudreau, like 1-for-1 type of trade. And I mean, now of course, he decided he wanted to move closer to the family, but not too close, going to Columbus. But I guess that leads to the Matthew Tkachuk, which was a super fun Friday night. I was at a baseball game when that news dropped, but what I know there was. So let's kind of go through that. Like, was there, where was like the Flames? They just didn't want to offer what he was looking for. Was he just like, I'm done with the organization? Kind of what do you think led to the trade?
So he was pretty clear that Gaudreau's departure had nothing to do with him not wanting to stay long term.
Wink.
Right. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But, and then, you know, there were like contradicting stories, like where he would say, you know, like, I really came to terms with this just a couple days ago versus like I've known for a long time. So, you know, yes, Gaudreau's departure really did play a role in it, in my opinion. But, you know, it was a very crazy Friday night for me. I was like, I think I'm just going to go to bed early, whatever. No.
So, I mean, they did get Huberdeau back, which is a pretty solid, you know, I think getting Huberdeau back, and then you get an unprotected first round pick in the 2025 draft, and you never know. I mean, as Sharks fans, we laughed, unprotected first round pick, and then next thing you know, Ottawa Senators are picking third overall and getting Tim Stützle out of it. So you never know. I mean, I don't think the Panthers are going to fall off a cliff like that, but you never know. But how would you grade the offseason? Like, give it a letter grade, you know, from a fan's perspective, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say a B plus, you know, like with Gaudreau leaving, you didn't get anything in return, but with Tkachuk, you got Huberdeau, Weegar, that first round pick and a prospect. So that's a haul for, you know, for Tkachuk, and for the team to kind of go from what on earth is this roster going to look like, you know, like tank for Bedard, to, oh, we are kind of like back in this because we have Huberdeau now and kind of a solid top six in a matter of like 48 hours. It was really impressive. And I think, you know, there's still a little bit of work to be done, but as of August 3rd, you know, I don't think you can be overly upset with what Tree Living's doing.
Yeah, and then they just, of course, you know, re-sign Mangiapane, who's going to be, you know, you expect him to continue that growth and hopefully kind of slide into. I'm not saying he's going to be Johnny Gaudreau, but he can help kind of offset some of that production that's leaving. So before we continue and we look at, you know, kind of some of the biggest questions for the Flames heading into training camp, want to take a quick break and talk to you guys about our friends over at Built Bar. You guys know Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. And if you haven't tried yet, you need to try their Built Bar Puffs. You're depriving yourself of one of the greatest joys in life. And they have a new flavor, cookie dough. I love cookie dough. Everything cookie dough ice cream is like my favorite ice cream. So check out their cookie dough puffs. They are 100% real cookie dough chunks covered in 100% real chocolate. What more could you want? So, and they're only 160 calories, 15 grams of protein in them. So go to built.com, check them out. If that's not your favorite, they have a whole variety. You can get a box with just a bunch of different flavors to try to figure out which one is your favorite. So go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15. All right, I know training camp is still weeks away, but what do you think is the biggest question for this team heading into training camp?
That fourth line. I don't know what they're going to do with
grind, baby.
Yeah, with Lucic, Kevin Rooney, and Trevor Lewis. I don't know. I don't really see that doing anything. I see it causing more problems, and to pay Kevin Rooney $1.3 million is just, I don't know. That just seems a little silly to me, but I hope that, you know, I'm not rooting for them to fail, but I hope that they're able to figure something out and not just eat minutes, but maybe provide some sort of substance to the ice.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest training camp battle that you're going to be watching at least?
I don't know. I really I want to see if Daryl Sutter gives Valimaki another shot at the NHL, because last season Valimaki just was not doing what Sutter wanted, and they were just bumping heads constantly. And
Daryl Sutter, you know, famously a player's coach who, gets along with every player ever. So.
Right. Never heard a bad thing about this guy, right?
Nope.
And so he ends up getting sent down to the AHL, and just has a really rough season in terms of suspension and injury. And it is his time in the Flames organization done, or is he one of the 10 one-way defenseman contracts that they have to figure out? And
They have 10 one-way contracts right now
yeah.
on the Fed. I thought the Sharks was bad because I think they have like 7 or 8. But like, so what do you are they? Do you think it's a trade? Do you think they're just going to try to play the waiver game, or what do you? I mean,
if it's Daryl Sutter, they're just gonna do the waivers because they don't, whatever, who cares, sort of deal. But also, I think like they have to try to trade him for something. Whether it just be draft picks or another prospect.
future consideration.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just a player to be named later sort of deal. But I don't know. They've got to figure something out.
Kind of a side tangent. So, I mean, there's, of course, with the Calgary Flames, you guys have your AHL team actually moving to Calgary, and a lot of Sharks fans I talked to are actually kind of sad because Stockton was right there, and a lot of fans went and watched, the Stockton Heat. But like, how important, like it's kind of, I mean, we've seen it as Sharks fans, like having your AHL team literally in the same building or right down the street is huge, because it's like, if having that call up thing where it's like you're not having to travel cross country, intercountry, between internationally, yes. In this case, like, how important do you think it is actually having your AHL team right there?
I think it's going to be huge for the Flames and really any organization that has, the convenience factor, because, we saw with the COVID seasons and like the bubble and just the quarantining and the things that had to be done, how much of, I don't want to say a problem because it's for the sake of public health, but
yeah, but it's an inconvenience.
Yeah, the inconvenience that it caused for, teams all across the league. And I think that it will also give the coaches and management and player development kind of a much easier eye and like boots on the ground to see what's going on there and to see if, words are matching up with what's being played on the ice.
And hopefully we see Dustin Wolf soon, because I know that dude is a monster. Yes. Wolf on the Flame just kind of makes a lot of sense. Anyway, all right, so heading into the 2022-2023 season, what do you think is their best strength, their best attribute, and what do you think is going to be their biggest weakness?
I think their biggest weakness is going to be probably the right side of the forwards, because right now it's Toffoli, Coleman, I think Dubé, and then Lewis.
So just kind of, like Toffoli's a good player, but
right, and then it just kind of rapidly declines. And obviously, I'm not saying you can go out there and make up, Matthew Tkachuk and like clone him or something, but you're not getting a lot of protection on that side, and it's weak. It's a weak side, and I'm interested to see how they kind of navigate this, especially with Trevor Lewis. I don't know. He's become my number one target, unfortunately. Just just that bottom line is just, I don't know. I don't know. There's so many things wrong with it, but I think their strengths is going to be, their top 4 defensemen. It's going to be, once Chris Tanev's back and healthy, it's going to be so great to see Rasmus Andersson, who had a breakout season last year and really find his game after struggling in the shortened season. And then Noah Hannafin kind of got more comfortable as well. Seeing Mackenzie Weegar as a top 4 pairing with the Flames is going to be very interesting to me. And I think it's really exciting. He bolsters it, the strength of the core. I can't talk today, my goodness, as a whole. And then to have a healthy Chris Tanev will really take some pressure off of Jacob Markstrom, I think. I say
Yeah, where does Oliver Shillington? Where does he kind of fit into? Because he got a nice little kind of prove a deal this season. So, but
I think with him, they'll probably have to slide him back down to the third pairing.
But if he's your third pairing defenseman, that's you're looking pretty solid there, right?
Yeah, and I would say, oh, I wish he was higher, but then that would mean like sacrificing someone else. But I think that him and Hanifin might have to like do a little bit of swapping around, just because I noticed that Hanifin kind of regressed at some points in the season and his defense just wasn't all there.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have, the Sean Monahan question who missed, a chunk of last year with it was a hip injury, right? I guess like he couldn't like bend over. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think you need to bend over to play hockey, don't you?
Yeah. And, especially taking like face-offs. So in the shortened season, he played basically the whole season with a torn hip, really destroyed it. And then last year he came back and was struggling, and everyone was like, okay, like, he's still healing. But then he went to the doctor, like the team doctor, and was like, I felt something like pop, and he couldn't bend over. So they were like, okay, it's time for another surgery. Like 27 years old and has already had significant amount of damage done to both of his hips.
Ooh. So is he going to be in the cards to play next year? Or do you think he might be done, or no idea?
I think obviously he's starting the season on LTIR. Mm-hmm. Could he slot in and take Kevin Rooney's spot if things go south? Sure. Mm-hmm. But that is one expensive fourth line center with, Luch on your left wing as well. That's like $12 million right
That's
there.
Full Canucks status right there.
It's not great to think about, but I want to see him come back and be healthy. It's the last year of his contract. This is he's supposed to be entering the contract that's going to be changing his life. Like this is, a generational wealth sort of deal. And he just has not had a good, solid season since 2018 even. And it's really hard to see because he's a good guy, nice player, but it's not working out for him.
Oof. All right, before we continue, and we're going to look at kind of some, more next season, like which player might make the jump, some of the young guys that might make an impact if Sutter gives him a chance. He's not playing young guys. Want to let you guys know, of course, about the Locked On NHL show. So when you guys are done listening to this, make sure you guys go check out that show. They're still pumping out content 5 days a week. I know they're doing their Atlantic power rankings, so you can see which team is, and they're going to power rank all the Atlantic, and they're going to be doing all the divisions, including the Pacific, where the Sharks will very easily slide into the last part there. But so make sure you guys go check that out. They've got you guys covered 5 days a week with local experts covering everything you want to know about the NHL. All right. Who is the wild card player? Who's a player do you think is most likely to make a big jump for the Flames this season?
Dylan Dubé. He is 23, 24, and has really taken positive steps forward in his development. But I really think between Daryl Sutter coming in and him having a consistent coach and him learning from, some really great veterans and older guys on the team from last year and the experience, it's really going to help him and push his game forward. Do I think that the talks of trading him last year at the deadline might have, given him a little more confidence to kind of say, okay, like I really need to prove myself, especially as a hometown boy? Yes. And I think it's there. I absolutely think it's there.
Gotcha. And then we know Daryl Sutter and young guys. Is there any young guy that you're like, this could be a guy who kind of makes a jump this year, or even plays like actual NHL games?
Yeah. So he actually really liked Adam Ruzicka last year as the third line center when Sean Monahan was struggling or came out of the lineup. and I thought he was great. And probably Matthew Phillips or Jacob Pelletier are more than likely going to make the jump at some point, and I could see either of them playing a significant amount of time.
All right, and of course, the question: the Calgary Flames finish where in the Pacific?
I'm gonna say third.
Third. So we're gonna make the playoffs. You think? So playoff, yeah, that'll put them in the playoffs, and then third.
Yeah, middle of the road expectations. You just gotta keep it there.
That's a little spicy for me. But yeah, it's a little spicy for me. I don't know. I think losing Gaudreau and Tkachuk is a tough. It's a lot, and Huberdeau. I think Huberdeau is a great player, but it's a lot. So, Jess, you said it all. Where can the people find you?
Yes, you can find my show wherever you get Locked On Sharks. Locked On Flames here 3 days a week and pumping out a lot of guest content for August. And you can find me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto.
And of course, you can find the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can listen wherever you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, you name it. We're there. YouTube as well. Please subscribe. Helps put money in my pocket, which is nice. So that whole sweet monetization life. Then, of course, you can find me on Twitter at myfryhole. And be back next week. We have I've got one of the Sharks 2022 prospects lined up for next week. So find out who that is, and we've got gonna be continuing our Get to Know the Enemy series as well. Jess, thank you so much for kicking off the Get to Know Your Enemy series, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you.
Bye, friends.